Well, I'm pleased to say now we can speak to IMAN, who is a Somali-American model and entrepreneur, joins us now from New York. Welcome to the program, IMAN. You were a child in Somalia. You were born in Mogadishu. You left in your teens. You well know the privations of Somalia and the desperate times that it's had. This famine, how do you think what's going on right now compares with everything that's gone before?
Well, thank you for having me. But let me just put a context on what's happening. I mean, I was there in Somalia in 1992 with a BBC crew and making a documentary on the famine at that time. And I don't want to belittle that famine, but this famine in itself, it is much worse than what has happened in 1992. But I remember very clearly when I was there in 1992 that there were NGOs and international community talking about that there needs to be some warning signs of drought and also safety nets put in place. Now, needless to say, I have heard from the International Red Cross, from the, especially from Save the Children Fund, that the drought was being registered, actually predicted, and that it was coming. Not just prediction, but that it was actually registered that it was coming November last year. And what has happened is that that urgency of call from the NGOs did not really bring urgent action. And what happens in a country, when a country is in trouble like that, is that the long-term development donors do not consider drought their concern. And the humanitarian donors wait for a drought to become a famine for them to react. So, well, needless to say, we know that it has become a famine, and a famine that's actually wiping away a whole generation of children, Somali children.
And given that, it's extraordinary to say, given exactly what you've just said, it is extraordinary to say that it hasn't been easy for aid groups around the world to raise money for this disaster. Why do you think that is?
Well, first of all, there is a psychological dilemma. A lot of people in the world and international community, just even your average person, have really left and forgotten about Somalia. Somalia has been called time and time again a failed state. And of course, in terms of we all know that the piracy that's been happening in Somalia. So most of the governments, most of the international community, most of the population in the world at large has totally given up on Somalia. And so now what's happening is that this is a catastrophe. I mean, a humanitarian catastrophe, because first of all, let's not forget, almost like 400,000 children already are about to perish. And we have now children carrying children, walking 50 to 60 miles to get to feeding centers. And what's really happening in Somalia, although I do know that the food aid is urgently needed, we really need at the same time to think about the long term about Somalia. And it doesn't, I'm not blaming anybody, and I'm not here to play a blaming game. But I'm more interested is that what's happening in Somalia now, this cycle to be repeated over and over again. Dadaab, the refugee camp, is supposed to be now, is considered the third largest city in Kenya. This is a refugee camp. Is the third largest city in Kenya. 150,000 Somalis arrive on a daily basis. Now, are they going to be parked there indefinitely? I mean, what we would like to see is for them to go back home. But to go back home to what?
Okay.
We need really to start thinking. This is really an opportunity to really think about the long term.
Sorry to jump in there. Just we're running out of time. I just finally wanted to ask you, as you look from afar at the country of your birth, can you see any hope for the future? Where is it going to come from? How will Somalia get back on its feet from this?
There is no other way but to see hope in this. There is no other way. And I see the hope in the Somali women. I see local communities needing to be boosted. I want to see the international community to really rethink and re-envision what Somalia could be as a government on its own. I really think that this is really a time to rethink and re-envision a new Somalia.
All right, IMAN, we appreciate your time. Thank you very much indeed for that fascinating perspective on what's going on right now in the Horn of Africa. Thank you.